job interview is one of the most anxiety-provoking situations most people can find themselves in, even when they go to plan. But what happens when you have your worst interview ever? Our guests share their worst interviews ever in the hope that you will take something from their mistakes to have a more successful interview outcome. Some of the stories are horrific and some are just downright embarrassing. Let's join our host, Kevin O'Reilly, the interview skills coach with over 25 years' experience in the fields of coaching and recruitment. Let's welcome our guests to the show.
Meet Martin Irvine, personal brand consultant, photographer, and content strategist with over a decade of experience turning coaches and consultants into confident, camera-ready authorities. Martin helps clients uncover the gold in their personal story and shape it into a standout brand presence across social media and beyond. Whether he's behind the lens or behind the strategy document, Martin's all about authenticity, connection, and content that actually converts. Martin, you're very, very welcome to the show today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Kevin.
It is an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited about today. We've met in person and you sort of blew me away with the type of person that you are in a general term. And I think you're going to give a lot of the people and listeners so much information today that their head might actually explode.
Good.
So, Martin, where do we find you today?
I'm in my studio in Belfast, just outside Belfast in Newton Abbey. So just here today, looking forward to this podcast and what we're going to discuss.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm very familiar with the area. I used to work up in that sort of direction myself. It seems like a different life ago,
Yeah.
but yes, Newton Abbey was my sort of stomping ground, so it was good. It was nice up. It's a nice place up there. And just looking for those who are not being able to see your studio. It's a lovely looking studio, simple, plain, and exactly what you need as a photographer.
Yeah, we moved in about 2.5 years ago. Location wise, it's brilliant because we have so much on our doorstep. We would work with a lot of coaches that would travel over from the likes of the UK and stuff, but technically Northern Ireland has everything the UK has, but on a much more sort of smaller, accessible, that we can get out and do mountains, beaches, woodlands, cityscapes, everything in just one day, as well as in the studio we have office setups, coffee shop setups, multiple different backdrops and stuff to be able to provide as much sort of variety and things as possible, all just in one space. So it's kind of been my little labor of love for the last 2.5 years, just constantly adding different sets and things. I joke when people come in and say it's like my own little IKEA, my own little sort of different corners all over the place of different things and everything like so. No, it's become a really good, a really good space that I enjoy.
Well, I suppose if you're enjoying that space, it'll make for a better environment whenever you bring your clients in to
Yeah.
enjoy that space as well. And I found that even myself, when you're out and about and you're speaking with different people, as long as you're happy in that space, it almost gives that impression across to the person sitting in front of you, and then they become a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more chatty in that space if you're comfortable in there.
Yeah.
But we're here today, Martin, to talk about your worst interview ever. So do me a favor, give us a wee sneak preview of what that is going to be. Now don't be giving away everything, just a sneak preview.
I would say the worst interview ever basically killed a career.
Wow. Okay.
It
I,
killed it killed my enthusiasm for a career.
wow. Okay. That is intriguing, Martin. I like that. I like that. But before we get there, folks, we're going to have a bit of a conversation to find out who Martin is. What's his background? Where does he come from? What's he currently doing? And what's his aspirations for the future? And it's also a little bit about him and his experience within this interview world, in the hope that you will take something away from today and put it into your own interview preparation so that you can get the job and the career that you truly deserve. So, Martin, tell me where this all started. Who is Martin and where did it start?
Uh, to go back even beyond, I've been doing photography, uh, brand consulting and stuff for around 10 years. Pre that, I was 18 years civil service.
Okay.
So those would be my years of interview experience, both sitting as interviewees, but also I would have sat on panels interviewing other people during that time. Then I started a hobby. I got a camera one Christmas. I was always a gadget fan. Always had to get a big gadget every Christmas. I had everything else, and one Christmas then I was like, I'll get a camera. I was always art, a creative. I wanted to go to art college to basically study graphic design. And here's actually a funny story. It's not actually my worst interview, but about 2 weeks before my interview for University of Ulster, I lost my A-level artwork.
Oh dear.
I had to go to the interview with my GCSE work, and that's what they marked me on. And it was unsuccessful.
Okay.
I went with a letter of exception and stuff and everything else, but they had to judge me on what was there. So it was like, artwork that was 2 years old. But even then, my A-level artwork itself, the exam itself, was based on the stuff from 2 years before. So I give up on that career for
Okay.
a long time. Went into the civil service, the safety of the government job, the 30 days annual leave, the pension, and everything else, and it was almost encouraged by my parents, my mother, to go in down that route because that was the safe route, and
Mm.
there I was for 18 years. Uh, then I got a camera. I started taking pictures, mostly landscapes and things, but ultimately then I'd get into training. I'd started going to the gym and stuff. Funny enough, by my wife, she was the one that convinced me before our wedding that she wanted to sort of lose a bit of weight before the wedding. So she was the one that coerced me to get into the gym. And within about a month, I was the one that was hooked and dragging her down. But from that, then uh, a guy approached me in the gym one day and said that someone had recommended me because I take photos. And I was like, right, okay, if you want me to take photos of you in the gym, I can do that. Not a problem. We'll give it a go. The funny thing was he says, can you do them like this? The famous sort of fitness photographer called Giles Crofter. And I kind of just nodded and smiled and went, yeah, of course. And I quietly sort of walked away, got my phone out and went, who is Giles Crofter? But we got the photos done. I borrowed a couple of bits of kit. We did it in the coffee shop with the gym. Got him photos and he posted them to Facebook. This was almost pre-Instagram days. Posted them to Facebook, and 3 days later, someone messaged me and asked me how much I charge for a photo shoot. And I was a little like, someone's going to pay me to take their photo. But I come back and said £50. He says, yep, no problem. And I was in awe. I was like, right, okay, so there's an option here. At that time, it was very much a paid hobby.
Okay.
My only was idea of, right, I want more equipment, I want a better camera, I want more lenses. And a quick, very short, funny story is that when I went to get my first camera, I went into Curry's like so many people do. I'm speaking to a guy, and he's like, "Will you need more lenses?" And I was like, "No, I'll be dead on." And he says, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "No, I'll be dead on." So he says, "Okay, well, here's a Panasonic one." The only reason I suggest this is because Panasonic lenses at the time are very expensive, and you can't get third-party lenses to fit them. I was like, "Nope, sounds good to me." A month later, I need new lenses. So I went back, I traded in the Panasonic and I opted for a Canon then because that was the camera that had the most availability in third party lenses and range and stuff and everything else. So it was a quick shift in the terms of then. But essentially then I kept posting examples of my work. More people started inquiring, I increased my price point, and ultimately it became a very busy hobby. But also
Mm.
then with the money I was earning from it, I started to sense that I had an option to take this greater than a hobby and potentially turn it into a career. But that ultimately meant that at the time it was very much about the clients were bodybuilders.
Okay.
Mainstream general population had not really sort of got into that idea of I want to get photos of me in the gym. The sort of before and after transformation pictures were not a thing that we see so often all over social media. And I looked at the fitness photography market within the UK was much bigger compared to here. But I realized at the time I had an option. It was almost my blue ocean that no
Mm.
one else was doing this type of work here. And I remember speaking to a photographer who I still know and still very friendly with, and he had said that there's not a lot of work there, mate. There's not that option. You're not going to be able to make a career out of it. But I had met a couple of influential people within the fitness industry. They made me think a little differently. And I realized, right, I do have an option. But for me, it was very much I had to define my own market. I had to grow
Mm,
the demand for that. I had to encourage people that a fitness photo shoot isn't just for a bodybuilder. What would they get from that? And I realized early on that if I marketed towards an individual, like come get your fitness shoot,
hmm
one client. But I realized then for everyone that came for a fitness shoot needed a coach to sort of
mm,
guide them through and make sure they do it well, keep them accountable, the motivation stuff. And I realized that that coach could use those photos then to leverage themselves and market themselves and position themselves better. So I actually switched my marketing away from the individual and towards the coach and started educating the coaches that if you can encourage one of your clients to go through the photo shoot process and show a before and after in the terms of your marketing and what you do, that will allow you to attract a lot more people to your business.
wow. And I mean, it's that pivot
Mm,
that I'm glad you noticed.
mm,
Because yes, we're in business to supply a service, supply goods, but we also have to be in business to make money so that we can continue the business.
yeah. So
And it was just that thought that you've had. And it's obviously one of those moments where you've just decided there's a different direction. And I love what you said about creating your own environment so that you can actually deliver this service and this
mhm,
product that you offer because it wasn't around and it wasn't available. And listening to other people, that friend of yours who said there isn't a market,
mm,
I've heard that so many times. Even when I started my own business, I was told there wasn't a market. And like you, Martin, I had to create that demand and create that market. And it wasn't even creating, it was making people aware.
yeah.
Because without awareness, nothing changes. And making people aware that there is this product and service available and it will make their life easier or better,
Mhm,
that is self-perpetuating. That will create its own market. All you needed to do was make people aware of that. And your marketing, and I've seen your marketing myself, your marketing is really good. It is very, very simple, but it is really effective. And that's the best type of marketing. It's
mhm,
not this overcomplicated style of marketing. You've obviously came a long way from the civil service, but I,
mm,
I wanna I wanna throw you back a little into the civil service if that's okay, because you'd mentioned that you were not only someone who took civil service interviews, but you also had to perform those interviews as well. And there must have been times within that particular civil service career, that safety net as you called it, that you were going for those interviews and potentially weren't getting them.
yeah.
Is there a moment there where you just thought, oh, this isn't for me with regards to the interview process, or even when you're sitting on the other side of the panel? I'm sure you've seen so many people walking in that door and thinking, it's a shame because I know they're very good, but they didn't do well in the interview.
Yeah. For me, it was the nerves, even for myself. And technically, the only reason that I had sat for on interviews was to gain experience from the other side of the table. In the hope then, when it came for me to come around to my next batch of interviews, for me to sit and try and move on to the next level, that I had a wee bit more experience. That, we got a limited amount of coaching as an interviewer,
Mm,
basically, but I hope within that coaching that it would give me a little more leverage in the terms of actually being an interviewee when it came back around to me. But again, even for me, the issue was it was the nerves. Even when I think back to my first driving test, which in a roundabout way is an interview that we all have to do at some point.
yeah.
Uh, I remember within the first 5 minutes, I'd looked over my shoulder, wobbled the wheel a bit, and I seen the guy put the axe down. I was like, boom, that's me done. And everything went wrong from that moment on. Stalling and stuff. I think I ended up with like four major faults and 17 minors. Everything just fell apart because I knew from that moment, there's no going back.
I have a similar story actually, except there's a slight twist on mine. Is that I passed my test the second time of asking. I had been driving probably about 45, 50 minutes of the test, and I felt like everything was working well. And literally the last half a mile back, there was a roundabout that I stalled at
Mm.
the roundabout on my second attempt. I stalled at it, and I just thought, damn it. Yeah, just damn it. And I just thought, you know what? Whatever. I'm just gonna drive on to the test center, accept what is going to be given to me, but look over the shoulder, handbrake on, handbrake off, indicate, and move on. And I thought, oh, I failed. And he just turned around to me and went, congratulations, Kevin, you passed. And I thought, oh, like, I mean, I was completely shocked because I thought that was a big fail. Huge fail.
Mm.
But he said, no, it's because of what you did after that happened is why I passed you.
Mm.
And I think
So
that resonates with lots of people, with regards to it's not just what happens to you, it's how you react to it afterwards
Mm.
that makes a difference. Even the same as the interviews. It's more than likely that you will fail at an interview. The
Mm.
percentages and the numbers are always stacked against you. However, how do you handle that situation afterward? Do you just go, well, I'm never going for another interview again, and I'm not moving up in my career, and I'm not moving on in my career? Or do you say, okay, what did I not do right? How can I now put that in place to do it right the next time?
Mhm.
It's a different way of thinking, Martin. And it
Yep.
took me some time to come to that conclusion and that thought process. And
Mm.
that's why I do these type of podcasts and speak with people and put this out to clients, because there is a different way of doing things. And it was the same as what you had said with regards to there's a different way of doing business.
Yep.
But if we can come back to the civil service, because I think that a lot of my clients are civil servants wanting to move up, and you talked about the nerves,
Mm.
and the majority of my clients will come to me because of that very reason. They are probably overqualified for the position they're about to go into or
Okay.
they're applying for. However, they don't seem to feel that they can communicate
Mm.
in the standard fashion that the civil service want to tick their boxes and to tick those criterias. And that's
Mhm.
the challenge. I had on this podcast a while back a gentleman who was the guinea pig for the civil service interviews.
Okay.
He conducted the interviews. He was asked the questions. He answered the questions. They put him through the whole process, and he thought he was the man. And he laughs at this himself. And yet, when he went for his very first official interview, he failed it. But I think that was more so around overconfidence
Mm.
than lack of preparation.
Mm.
But you said about the nerves, Martin. Do you still have those nerves with regards to interviews? And I know you don't conventionally do those interviews, but as a business owner, you interview in a different way. So every time a client comes to you for discussing a potential working together,
Mhm.
that's an interview.
Yep.
So do you still get that nervousness, or is it because now that you can understand your product service and there's no wrong answers when it comes to that?
I think my perception of the sort of interview process, or whether it's a client discovery call or anything else like that, has changed. You know, very much back through the old civil service idea of interviews. It was all about whether you fit in to what they need.
Hmm.
It was almost about trying to reconstruct yourself to suit what they needed. I think even now we're talking, I remember back, they used to, was it the car structure, cause, action, result? They would have always kind of got you to use. We would have received some coaching from sort of managers above to try and help, but it was always very standardized. It was like, right, you need to say this and this and this. And it was almost, you know, about making sure you fitted into the right shapes,
Yeah. It
into
become it
things.
become it becomes a memory test then, more
Yep.
so than explaining what you actually do. It becomes a memory test,
Yep.
which I find a real struggle because there's people out there that don't have always a great memory or recall.
Mm.
And what I have tended to find is individuals of a certain age and a certain gender
Mm.
seem to not have the cognitive ability to recall information at the drop of a hat when they're under pressure.
Yep.
I would get a lot of females coming to me menopausal. And one of the symptoms of menopause is the cloudiness and the fog and
Mhm.
the ability to recall information that you have. And there's different methods and different little techniques that we use to help not clear the fog, but manage the nerves. because once they manage that stress and manage the nerves, the fog reduces ever so slightly, which allows them then to be able to recall that information at the time they need it. But also the preparation of constantly going over it and over it and over it. So the rote repetition way and technique, it brings it that memory from the back of the mind to the front of the mind.
Yep.
And sometimes when you're asked a question, you're scrambling for an answer.
Mm.
And you can see people do that, or at least I can see people scrambling to try and answer a question that they know the answer to, but they just can't find it wherever it's been placed within their own memory.
See, I think this is why what you do really creates a difference. Because what my experience of going through that sort of interview coaching within the civil service was almost delivered in a uniform fashion to go across as many different people as possible.
Yeah.
It's just very generic, and even like the guidelines that these managers who were then coaching people for interviews were given, it was all basically the same, which meant it was very vanilla to try and get across as many people as possible. Which ultimately meant when you were going in for your interview, how do you really separate yourself from your competitors when what you're being told is say the same as everyone else?
Yeah.
You're never really given that opportunity to really sort of set yourself apart when you're being asked to, fall into a formula for everyone else.
Yep.
Whereas I would say when I look at what you would do, you're coaching the individual.
Yep.
You're looking at them saying, right, okay, what's your strong points? What sets you apart? And everything else. That when they walk in, at least they have that ability then to really set themselves apart set themselves apart from the competition. Because in
Yep.
essence, then when we're doing an interview, it's about making us stand out. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a tick box. It's what makes us different from the person that was in before us. What makes us different from the person who'll be in afterwards. What makes us memorable
That's it.
for what's
And
going forward.
you're absolutely right. And what you're saying is bringing back a little thought and a little quote that I always, whenever I speak and talk with people, and even on stage when I speak, it's from Maya Angelou, and it says, "People don't remember what you say; they remember how you made them feel."
Mhm.
And every time I hear that, and every time I speak, and every client I deal with, that is one of the first things that comes to mind. I actually have it on my wall in front of me right now as a prompt and as a reminder constantly, because I
Yep.
know the effect that it has. And what you're talking about, that differentiation, it is something that is very, very difficult. You're right, it is vanilla when you go into these civil service interviews and they're all very basically the same. But if you want something to stick, like the memory, you need to make the person feel it. So what a little technique I use is they've gone away from this sort of car situation now and they've gone into the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, result. But I've created a second R, so I call it the STAR plus R, which is the reflection piece. And when you get up into the sort of senior management levels, they always want to hear how you've reflected on what you've taken away. Because usually
Mhm.
the follow-up question is, what did you learn from that?
Yep.
So you're answering it before you're even asked it. So you're taking control of the interview. So that's the STAR plus R. But what I ask clients to do is create a visual picture of the situation in their own head. So put themselves back into that movie that they were in and
Mhm.
describe it. Literally describe what they see, hear, and feel. And once you start putting the senses into what you're talking about, people start really connecting because we're not all the same. So you and I, from what I would guess from what you do and from what I do, we're very visual learners.
Mhm.
So we will remember something we've seen, but quicker than remember something we have heard.
Yep.
Whereas women will remember something they've heard quicker than something they've seen.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Other people, it's more kinesthetic. So someone has to feel it before they remember it. So if you pull all of this together, and in your situation, you're telling someone, well, this is the situation I was in. This is what I could see. This is what I heard, and this is how I felt. Straight away, you're ticking the three senses,
Mhm.
and you're including everybody in that room and their learning style. So straight away, you're already at an advantage.
Yep.
Right away. And it's something so subtle that makes a huge difference to make it sticky, like you had said.
Mhm.
Can you imagine even speaking with your clients, Martin? You might hear something and you go, "Oh." So let me give you an example of what I mean. When I'm speaking with clients and someone says to me, "Kevin, I see what you mean," they are a visual person.
Yep.
So then when they say, "I see what you mean," I will go, "I do see what you mean."
Mm-hmm.
It's almost creating that loop back to them. And once you do that, you'll be amazed at how quickly and easily you can communicate with someone. So listening is a huge part of communicating, and especially in interviews, because they'll ask you a question. It may be a pre-written question, but prior to that, they will have brought you in. They maybe had a quick, "How are you? Please sit over there, stand here, do whatever." There are nuances within what they say that will tell you what type of listener, watcher, or feeler they are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can pick up on that, great. Now, high stress situations, it's difficult to do that. So that's why when I teach my clients, they touch on all three of them at the very beginning.
Okay.
And then they go into the ticking the boxes after that. But you're right, they have to stand out
See, I see a lot of similarities in interviews to marketing and content,
big time.
because in a way, when you walk into an interview, you are marketing yourself.
Yep.
And exactly as you say there, we in marketing they would talk about use visuals, as you say. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be? And it's almost creating a similar to what you said, that visualization way of things. But
Hmm.
again, in marketing, I see a lot of people make the mistake about they sell the process. They sell the qualifications and stuff. For
Yeah.
me, I would use the analogy of, if I wanted to sell a pair of football boots, I don't sell the boots. I sell the sense of scoring the winning goal and the knee slide to the corner flag and the crowd going absolutely mad. Rather than selling the parts that make up a car, you sell the feeling, the hair standing up as you drive that car down your favorite road. And it's almost in terms of that. So I imagine then when you go into an interview, you want to convey this idea of someone looking at going, what would it be like if I worked with you or as part of your team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as an interview panelist, and you probably know this yourself, there are certain questions that I ask myself straight away.
Mm.
I always say, could I work with this person for 40 hours a week? Now, I
Yeah.
know that might not be constructive because it could be a job that you may not have any knowledge or experience in, but it is about culture.
Mm.
A lot of interviews are about culture. Now, the civil service one, which is a very standardized one, they try and remove the biases by bias training. However, there will always be bias.
Mm.
And that's why they tend to have at least three people on their panel
Yep.
to help alleviate the bias. But you can't, it's very difficult. Unless you're aware of your own biases, it's very difficult. And then you have to be conscious that you're not saying yes or no based on that bias. It's a real minefield, an
Yep.
absolute minefield. Some people are very good at it, Martin. Some people are not very good at it.
Mm.
But to alleviate that, sometimes you got to be that vanilla, like you said. But you don't have to be completely vanilla. You
Yep.
can be a little bit off because you can paint the picture, tell the story, show the outcome, and paint you in a light where I'm sitting as an interview panelist going, I can see that person in that role.
Yep. And I think as we mentioned earlier on, for me, well, very much what I do now, if I'm interviewing for new team members or anything, it's like, can I see myself wanting to work with this person?
Mm,
Because when I first started developing team, I was told that personality is probably more important than skill set, because skills can be taught as long as they have a learning personality.
absolutely.
And even sometimes in the creative space, and this may be slightly different, but from other industries. But I've had people in the past that have come in and joined the team, and they just haven't been a good fit because simply the fact of they are a know-it-all rather than a learn-it-all. And it's very much they would much rather tell me about what they already know when it came to actually sort of delivering, rather than me being able to tell them what I needed them to know.
Yeah.
And I know almost sometimes that for me within the creative space, sometimes you don't want someone who is too established for for a better want, for a term, too stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know I already know everything that I need to know. And it's like, right, okay, but it doesn't seem like you know what I need you to know to be able to deliver what I need from you.
Yeah.
And it's almost trying to identify, like we mentioned earlier, about a coachable person. Someone, and I know it's almost someone with the great, like sort of personality or personality traits or anything that's almost like a lump of clay that when they come in, they're going to be moldable
Mm.
into exactly what you need. Okay, they need to have the right skill sets, maybe the knowledge, but again, if that can all be taught very quickly, then it's not necessarily essential. So it's almost their personality, probably for me, sometimes speaks out a little more in the terms of that. But now I speak about that solely from a creative perspective
Yeah. Well,
because
well, I can speak about it, Martin, from another direction as well,
mm,
because whenever I used to work in retail, I hired for attitude.
yeah,
It was as simple as that. I
mm,
used to hire for skill and experience, and just like you've just said, they're very rarely teachable.
mm,
They know everything, and they cause more problems because they know everything.
yeah,
However, when you get someone who is willing to learn and with a real coachable attitude, oh, those
mm,
people absolutely take off. I mean, they literally fly. It's the
mm,
ones who come to you and go, Kevin, why are we doing this? And they don't mean that in a negative, let me point out what you're way you're wrong. It's, Kevin, why are we doing? I'd like to understand.
mm,
Could you help me understand so that I know the next time what we're doing?
mhm, yeah,
See, when people ask me that, I am like over the moon. Anybody that asks me that, and for me, communication is about understanding.
mm,
And how the response you get when you communicate is so important because you can
yeah,
get a negative one or a positive one, but that's always your responsibility.
mhm.
How you communicate is on you, and
But I think
especially in interviews.
yeah, I think it goes back to exactly what you said about earlier about the review.
Mm,
That when you have someone that comes in that, they have that sort of perfect attitude and it's like, okay, review. What can I do better? And
yeah.
they're willing to ask that question over and over again as opposed to just being sort of very, and even one thing I have down a note here about being robotic. And we see in the age of AI,
Mm,
more and more companies now are putting together AI teams in the terms of, right, what's the problem? Can AI solve it first? And a lot of
yeah.
businesses now, and I know I heard this recently from a Stephen Bartlett piece of content, that he says that he now asks his team, if someone comes in and says, we need a new hire, he says, can AI do it first? And for me, then, if you want to position yourself as a valuable asset to the business or whatever you're applying, you have to bring something to the table that's not robotic.
Mm,
That whether it's an element of creativity, whether it's an element of initiative, whether it's something different. Because if AI can do it, then they actually don't need you. So in the terms of it, what is it that through your attitude, your personality, your creativeness, your initiative, are you bringing to this role that's going to separate you almost from a robotic sort of, I've seen people that come in and just will do exactly what they're asked,
yeah.
like a robot.
Yeah.
Sometimes when in a business, particularly if you're in a business that's growing and scaling and you want to continue that you want someone to come in and do exactly as they're asked, but will give the review, will ask for help, but also then contribute in with fresh and innovative ideas.
Yeah. I love that, and I love what you said about the AI.
Mm,
That you have to differentiate yourself from that. And attitude potentially is one of the biggest standout factors from creativity as well, but attitude, what it means to be human.
mm. And I think
Very good.
this almost leads me to the point of why I have now positioned myself away from the sort of fitness. Just I realized, to take us back to the earlier story, that when I was working primarily with coaches and trying to help the coaches, and almost rather than just hand in the images and walk away, it was like, right, okay, if I can give you a wee bit more information on how to get the maximum return out of those images that I'm providing to you. You get more value, which means you value me more, which means you're either going to refer me to your friends or your colleagues, or people are going to see you as a success after working with me, which means I attract more people, get to earn more
Mm.
money, blah, blah, blah. But it made me realize then that I, when working with those coaches, I had to give them that extra element of what
Mm.
I did. And what I realized was recently in the last sort of 2 years, I realized looking back with those coaches, I was helping them build personal brands. That in a real saturated market, how can they stand out? And for me, personal branding, people can look at the sort of the big names, the Gordon Ramsays, the David Beckhams, the ones out there and think, okay, I understand that they have a personal brand, but it's way up there. It's miles away from me. It's an unattainable island, let's say. But effectively, a personal brand is your personal brand is what sets you apart in between you and 10 or 15 other candidates within an interview. What
Mm-hmm.
makes you different? And ultimately, it's about owning your own story when you go in there. So, in the fitness space, for particularly online coaches, that people are getting bombarded with the same type of results every single day, the same
Yep.
level of service, the same price point, and say, and even down to the point, the same marketing strategies that are being sort of promoted and given out through marketing agencies and stuff and everything else, or everyone's jumping from trend to trend in the terms of social media because this
Mm.
one got loads of views. But ultimately, for me, how do you really separate yourself from that industry? And it's simply by being yourself and
Yeah.
owning who you are, whether that be your journey, whether it be your own personality traits, your own attitude, little things that set you apart. I was doing a talk on personal branding on Sunday there to a room full of business owners. And when I was introducing myself, I told them that I'm a massive Eminem fan. And I was like, okay. But it was like not because of just his music, because of the father he is. That
Yeah.
he has raised Haley, from who has been mentioned in his songs and stuff, raised her up and kept her out of a world that almost killed him, that led him down the addiction route and stuff and everything else. She is now an interior designer. She's married. She's just had a child this year and stuff and everything else. He has kept her out of that sort of hip hop
Yeah.
danger of that word. And what a lot of people also people don't realize is that if you know Eminem, you know of his ex-wife Kim. She had
Mm-hmm.
another child out of their relationship. He's actually now adopted that child and raised her as
Wow.
well, away from the spotlight. And Kim's sister had a child, but ultimately died of cancer, I believe, and he adopted that child as well. So he's almost it to me. I look at it as in like he's a father more than anything else, and how he
Mm.
has raised his daughter. Even one thing it's sort of which I love is that when Haley was getting prom queen, he stood and watched on a video. He watched the video camera in a TV in one of the classrooms because he knew if he went in there, he'd have taken the spotlight away from her to allow her
Wow.
that moment. So it's almost that's why. But it means so much to me because being a father is my greatest value and what I can do and offer for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke at one of the events and says one of the greatest compliments I've ever had as a parent came recently that we had a parent teachers meeting and the feedback one of the teachers gave is that my daughter Harriet is a real leader within her class, but not because she's loud, not because she's grabbing the spotlight or anything, because she embodies a quiet confidence. And the teacher says the other pupils feel safe around her.
Yeah.
And that to me was just like, if I need someone to say that I'm winning or being
Yeah.
successful as a parent, it's that. And it's because, again, it aligns very much with my values in the terms of personal brand, about being yourself and owning yourself. And there's real confidence that comes from that. And I
Yeah.
understand, like, what I mean, you will know this very, very well that confidence, true confidence, is very important, not constructed or manufactured confidence within an interview, because often people will see through that. But
Yeah.
true confidence comes from just knowing who you are, knowing you're capable of doing the job that you're interviewing for, but also knowing what you bring to that job is going to be you and your attributes and being able to own them and understanding that that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen it all too often, Martin, that when people come to me to 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 scheme and to try and get those little brownie points and go, oh well, I really don't want the job, but I don't want this other person to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or they go, I really don't like what I'm doing, but sure, if I have to do it, I might as well be the leader or the manager and get paid better for it.
Yeah.
And we then go down a different conversation. We have a
Mm-hmm.
different conversation. And what you tend to find is that their values don't align. Their values don't align and my values don't align. And I don't always take on every client. I have had to refuse clients in the past because their values don't align with mine. I'm not one of these people that want to give all of these tips and tricks and secrets and behind the curtain ideas to people who don't deserve it.
Mm.
The people that come to me, 99% of the people that come to me deserve the job that they're going for. They just can't communicate that during that stressed,
Yep.
pressured time.
Mm.
And sometimes that weighs heavy on me
Yep.
because they are so good at it. And I know that there's so many good people out there deserving of that leadership role or that management role or to be in charge of something, but they just don't have that confidence because they've taken a knock somewhere down the line. Their
Mm.
self-belief has gone astray, or they've a manager or a partner has gave a comment that has just destroyed them.
Mm.
Now, Martin, we normally do our quick fire round.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm toying with the idea of shall we do this or not because I think I want to get to your worst interview ever. But let's do this. Let's do the quick fire round. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. So for those that normally listen to the show, you'll know this is the part where we give questions and Martin has to answer them with a yes, no, or pass. It's as simple as that. There is no time for thinking. It's just a very simple yes, no, or pass. And the reason that I asked these particular set of questions is because I am asked these questions at least once a week by different clients. And some of the questions from our listeners that have been sent in as well, they can't believe that this actually has been asked. So, Martin, if you're ready, I'm going to get started, okay?
Yep.
So, very simple yes, no, pass. So, is it acceptable to wear pajama bottoms to a Zoom interview?
Yes.
Is it okay to bribe the interviewers?
Yes.
Is it wise to ask the interviewer for a selfie together at the end?
No.
Should a candidate smile during the interview?
Yes.
Should you answer the first question with a dramatic pause for effect?
Yes.
Should women wear high heels to an interview?
Pass.
Is it acceptable to ask the interviewer how much they make?
No.
Should you high five the interviewer at the end?
No.
Should a candidate swear during an interview?
Oof. No.
Is it acceptable to bring your mom to the interview for moral support?
No.
No. That's the end of the questions, Martin. I found you contemplating a couple of those answers
Yeah.
and laughing at some of them, to be fair,
Yeah.
which and
I wanted to be able to expand, and even the one about a past on the high heels. It's a case of I don't want to say yes or no. The past is simply because I'd like to elaborate.
okay, well, Martin,
Even even
elaborate if you don't mind.
even the swearing one is a case of well, it depends on the job interview. If you were a comedian, then yeah.
Absolutely.
Particularly if it's part of
Absolutely.
your act and who you are and what people expect of you. Uh, but no, I was interested to almost try and box me into a point of I have to make a quick choice, but still, it's like there was maybe elements of I want to explain my answer.
But that's the reason that we do these quick fire rounds because what it does actually do is it generates more questions than it
Mm,
does answers,
yeah.
but it also gives us a look inside your head
Mm.
to see where it goes. And the one question I want to know, Martin, is what is it you accept as a bribe? That's what I want to know.
You can bribe them with your personality and your attributes. Not a
So not
coffee
not
or
a coffee. Oh,
it's
okay.
the old attribute of walking into the classroom with the teacher with an apple.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
But the
Okay.
bribe, bribe them is not materialistic bribe or monetary bribe, but almost bribe them with a bit of who you are and persuasion around to convince them that you're the person for them.
That was very good, Martin. That was a good save there. I like that.
Mm.
That was a good save. And you laughed at the is it acceptable bringing your mum to the interview for moral support?
Yeah, because
I
but
am
it's
I'm asked that quite regularly by
mm,
younger people.
mm. I would probably it would probably be more detriment to me if I brought my mum. But I'm very like my mum, but that means we clash a little.
Ah, right. Okay.
So
Okay.
it would be, but my mum would have always like my mum was the one that told me I need the civil service career. I
Right.
need that security. And even with that, my mum has been that protector in my life that's almost when I rang her to say that I've left the civil service, it was like, what have you done?
Ah.
I'm going out alone. What have you done?
So it sounds very similar to my own mother, Martin. When I said I've started my business, she said, "That's very good, Kevin. How are you going to pay your bills?
Yeah.
Do you remember you have four children and a mortgage and bills?" And I said, I do. But I'm very confident in what I am doing. I'm very good at helping people see what they need to see, and it will take a little bit of time to settle.
Mm.
But I've never looked back, Martin.
No.
Now, maybe for the first 12 months, there's that waning of shall I, won't I? Can I continue when the door isn't being rapped or the phone isn't being rang? It would have been easier to go out and get a job in
Yeah.
something that I already knew I was doing. But I stuck to my guns, knew that there was a real need for this because I've heard it so many times.
Mm.
And I thought, this needs to happen.
A large part of what I do, similar to what I mentioned earlier about my, telling the Eminem story, but also like my values as a father, is that I don't want my daughter to always play it safe.
Yeah,
I want her to have a sense of adventure. I want her to have a sense that hard work does pay off, and hard work is hard, and you have to be willing to put it in. Even the sort of days like we mentioned about sort of team members and stuff coming on within me, there's a culture now within the creative space that people want that 3 day work week. I'm only going to work 3 days a week and I'm going to travel and I'm going to do this and work out of coffee shops. And it's like, no, you got to earn the 3 day week, 3 day work week by doing 8 day work weeks
absolutely.
up to that point. And I don't know if it's just maybe it's my age now that I'm getting old and getting cynical that people just expect the easy life, you know, and it's just gonna come. You know, there's an old there's a marine analogy, apparently a marine saying that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody's ready to die. Everybody
Absolutely.
wants the trophy, but not the training.
Yeah.
And in the terms of it, and I think sometimes, even like if you came for an interview for me, it's like I want to know that someone's willing to put the reps in.
Well,
When they put
that's
those
it's
reps in, they're going to take the learning, they're going to, like exactly as you said, the review
yeah.
from that and move forward and be better for it.
Well, it's strange that you say that. You know, people want the outcome more than the process.
Mm.
I am quite a process-driven person,
Mm.
so I actually enjoy the process, which would explain a lot
Mm.
because the outcome will come with the process.
So, I mean, again, like a line I'll use sometimes within sort of trying to explain what personal branding from my perspective is. I don't want to know how someone's spending their money. I want to know how they got to the point of earning the money and how they got that money. You know,
Yeah.
like the line I use all the time is no one asked a lottery winner on how to make money because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was easy. It came easy.
Yeah.
There was no learning through that. So even in terms, I imagine if someone goes in for an interview, okay, where are you right now? Boom, that's amazing. But how did you get there? What did you
Yeah.
learn along the way? What lessons have you learned? And I know sometimes it's mentioned in sort of marketing or different business areas that a failed CEO is sometimes more valuable than a successful one
Yep.
because a successful one has maybe never been tested.
Yep.
So I think sometimes for the terms of an interview, now this is almost just from my perspective because I see value in people's stories and their journey and stuff. But as the terms of like an interviewer, I want to know when someone's been tested. Like with
Yeah.
even back to star or carb, it said earlier on, the cause or the situation. And it's like, I want to know when someone was tested. I want to know how they reacted. I wanted to know what they learned from it. I want to know how then they what they learned, how they applied that, and move forward.
Mhm.
You know, we very much we celebrate our successes. We pat
Yep.
ourselves in the back and we move forward. But we review our failures.
Yeah.
And that's where and it's the analysis and the review of those failures is what makes us better. Because very much, an achievement and like another sort of idea is that, every time someone climbs a peak, they look to the distance and they see another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I love quotes. Every great view comes from a difficult climb. And
Yeah,
it's
Martin, you and I are both love a good quote, and I'll throw you one back. There is no failure, only feedback. That
yep.
that is what is called a presupposition of NLP. So NLP is neuro linguistic programming. It's v- basically broken down. It is mind communication programming and
Okay.
how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others.
Mm,
That's the very premise of it.
mm,
Whenever I realize that there is no failure, there's only learning and only feedback, and it's not negative feedback or positive feedback, it's just feedback, my life changed
mm.
because it removed the barrier of that potential failure as a negative, and it brought it into light as I need to feel more so I can get to where I'm going.
Yep. It's funny because it makes me think of not the first time we met, but when we shared a stage at Space NI.
Mm,
I had my little cue card to just basically put me in state. There was no slides or anything, just put me, help me get in state. And very much like I'm sure a lot of people do in an interview, when I look back over, there was one point on there that I didn't make. And it was like, darn, I didn't say that. And you forget about all the other things that you did say and all the
So,
things you wanted to get across, but you pick on the one thing that you didn't. But that day, that was the one. It was simple, just one phrase, take more.
mm,
And why I say that is that I was asked to become part of when I first started my mentorship with my mentor 10 years ago, we were asked to come up with affirmations.
yep,
An exercise a lot of people have gone through, but the affirmation I come up with is, and it still sits in the back of my screen, I'm getting it printed to put up in the studio and stuff, is that I will take more from a challenge than I will allow the challenge to take from me.
love it.
And very much it falls in line. It falls in line with a lot of different sort of philosophies these days, like the review and there's no failure, only feedback and stuff, nothing else. But it has given me a sense that life's going to challenge me.
Yep.
Always will. Whether it's an interview, failing an interview, or anything else, or part of business, negative feedback, whatever it is, life will always challenge us at some point. But if we can face those challenges knowing that we will take more from them in a learning capacity than they will actually take from us, we get to win those challenges
Mm.
every single time. So even I have a little dog tag around my neck and it just simply says on it, take more. And that's I I have talked about getting it tattooed down my arm,
Yeah.
but someone suggested actually get your daughter to write it on a marker and then they can tattoo it over the top.
Ah,
I was
okay.
like, okay. Because for me, if there's one thing that I can teach my daughter, one, about her being herself
Yeah.
and owning it, but also then to take more from every challenge that life gives her.
It's a beautiful message, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think if some of our listeners just took anything away from today, it's that. That's so, so important. Just be yourself, be authentically you. Don't be that square peg trying to get into that round hole. And
Hmm.
it's all too often that we see this within interviews that people try to be a round peg in a
Yep.
round hole, but they're actually square. The values don't align. There is that scarcity and fear of failure, but there's also that scarcity of the opportunity to have security, like the civil service, like the
Yep.
civil service. Now, Martin, we've come to the time within the show here where I'm going to ask you the question, and the reason that we're all here is what has been your worst interview ever?
My worst interview ever was probably also my best. and it was the last interview I sat in the civil service. I had a bit of a fractured relationship with my manager, who was the one who was supposed to coach me for that interview. So I maybe didn't get the coaching that I thought I wanted or I needed during that. And I went and sat. A lot of the interviews that I went to, I tried to be someone else. I tried to be someone better. I love the phrase that, we're not who we think we are. We are not who people think we are. We are who we think people think we are. And we're almost trying to construct this persona of who we think the interviewers want to walk into that room. But ultimately, we don't really know. So almost we have no evidence, no information to base who we think the interviewers want to be. So the only person that you can really be in the terms of based on the evidence that you know is yourself. And one thing I always did in interviews was try to get in vocabulary that I did not have a true mastery over. That get the big words in.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you use them in the wrong context, it just makes you look silly. Or you get lost and you're trying to come up and sound more intelligent or than you are anything else. But really, I mean, if what you're being interviewed, it's like, then if you know exactly what you can do and you do it right, just put it in your words, because then at least then it's going to come across as authentic and trustworthy. And that interview, that's probably what I did. I tried to put myself, as a circle into a square hole or whatever, and went in trying to be someone I didn't. But the thing was, that sort of area, that when it came back and I didn't get, as you know, with the civil service, it's not necessarily just one job for one person. You'll sit on a board. There'll be hundreds of interviews, and then loads of people within your section may get that promotion up to the next grade or not. And on the day that the results come out, the said manager went around everyone to say, yes, you got it, you didn't, and didn't come near me. Just didn't come and tell me for whatever reason. So I was left going, did I or didn't I, or what happened, or and that was something at the time was very hard for me. Without going too deep in my background, acceptance and made to feel excluded is something from my childhood, and it's still with me now. So when I'm made to feel not good enough to be in company or made to feel excluded, it sort of it doesn't sit well with me. But on the transverse now, I'm very much, like we mentioned, I'm really comfortable around people that are just really authentic, really themselves. Like we mentioned, if their views are completely transparent or polar opposite of mine, but don't try and impose them on me and just own them and are very, open about them, I'm very, very comfortable around that people. I can't be around people with agendas. And even that day then, through that part, made me feel very excluded. And that whole, when I look back, and you mentioned about interviews, that was probably my hardest and my worst. But the thing is, another batch of interviews come around about 6 months or a year later, and I thought, right, I'm going to go again. And then I decided I wasn't. I thought, I'm just not going to do it. And I didn't sit for the next batch of interviews. Around the time the interview was going to come, I had a family trip planned to Edinburgh. I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. But in doing so, it solidified in me that my photography career had started. And it was like, am I going to put my attention into this? Or am I going to put it into photography? And it was ultimately like, I made that decision at that time. I'm going to put my time and effort into the photography. And ultimately, it came to the point then I doubled down. I was working 16-hour days every single day. I was really putting the effort into the photography, because to not put any sort of negative view on the terms of like the civil service and stuff and everything else. But for me, it was like, okay, if my career is going to be put in the hands of someone else, like someone who's not going to coach me, someone who's not going to give me the fair sort of shot like someone else, or do I put my time and attention into a career that I have control of? That, like you mentioned, sort of going out on your own. And there is always that fear when you work for yourself that, the buck stops with you. It lies squarely upon your shoulders. If you need new clients, if you need new work, it has to come through your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it was about a year after that interview I didn't go for that I asked for a day off to do a photo shoot. And it was just instantly, nope, we can't give you the day off. And I threw a head staggers up because at that point it was a pretty big photo shoot for me. It was going to be pretty influential for my career and stuff and everything else. But I realized that someone else was making that decision on my behalf. And I instantly asked for a career break. And that manager looked at me square in the eye and he went, yeah, no problem.
Wow.
So they couldn't have spurred me for a day.
Mhm.
And I think it was because when I asked, it was for to go off and do a photo shoot because my notoriety, whatever, it became obvious in work what I was doing as a sideline because I was working so prominently within social media and stuff and everything else. It was very evident.
Yeah.
And it was almost a case of then I threw the head stackers and says I want a career break, and it was instantly approved.
Well.
The problem was I had to go and tell my wife.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay. You hadn't even spoke to your wife yet.
No, but by extension of that, she was actually sitting 3 floors above me. We
Oh.
had been traveling to and through work for the last 18 years, working together. So it was almost, by the way, you're going to be going to work now from now.
A very subtle way of saying I've taken a career break and I've left.
Yeah. But she gave me her full support. My wife Lisa has always been my greatest supporter. So I made her the promise that if it failed, it wouldn't be down to a lack of effort and hard work. And she believed in me for that.
That's good, that isn't it?
Yeah, and I am eternally grateful. And even like through the last 10 years, there's been ups and downs, there's been harder moments and stuff. And
Yeah.
even at the minute, I am going through a bit of a transition in the terms of, you know, my reputation within the fitness industry has gotten me so far, but now I'm breaking into almost new industries, new markets in the terms of the personal brand stuff from like, meeting you a couple of weeks ago, uh, to being asked to come on to this podcast and stuff and everything else. And it's almost, I look at the personal branding as like my new blue ocean in the terms of it. There's a demand, there's an opportunity there.
Big time.
And it's for me to take on. Personal branding as a whole, it's big in America, but at the minute it's only starting to filter over here in the UK. And it's like, right, okay, if I really believe in this, and it falls in line with my values so much in the terms of being myself. And again,
Yeah.
it all probably falls in line with what I was saying earlier on about to made to be feel excluded.
Yeah.
That I spent because from those years within my teenage years of being made to feel excluded, my early 20s was probably about me being a person that I thought would help me fit in.
Yeah.
And I lost myself a lot through that.
Yeah.
I was someone that people, and even from the terms then when I started my photography career and started to really define who I was and who I wanted to be seen as and gain confidence in myself, I got pushback from friends. You're not the guy you used to be. One day even my best friend turned around to me and says that people keep saying to me, you've lost your spark.
Right.
And my response was, but maybe those people just don't bring the spark out anymore.
Very good answer, Martin. Very good answer. And I
And the
think
thing is,
it's the more.
around
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I say because around the same time, I did a talk to 200 coaches in a room, and I can trust you, like my passion was there. It was most definitely there. But it's that spark just comes out, whether it's the people or whether it's what I do. But I just found a new spark in the terms of who that was. And it's been a real sort of journey of self-discovery in the terms of who I am and what I want to be. But again, it falls back down into my beliefs around personal brand is about just owning who you are and being appreciative of it and understanding that we're not here. We can't be here for everyone.
Yeah.
And in the
And I think
terms of the job interview, I mean, you don't you don't suit every single job.
no.
It's about going for the interviews that suit you. And then when you do, you go in, you get to be yourself.
Imagine working for a company that you walk in, your values align, you can be yourself in the interview. Imagine working for that company.
Mm.
You probably never need to leave again.
Yep.
And then I find that a lot of companies don't hire for attitude. They hire for skill set, they hire for experience.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I want my doctor to be very qualified and experienced. But not very many organizations have that level of necessity for that
Yep.
type of qualification or level of qualification. Like you just said previously, skills can be taught.
Mm.
Attitude is so important. That's difficult to teach that attitude. And what we're really talking about here is behavior.
Yep.
Whenever we go into interviews, what they're looking for is potential future behavior.
Hmm.
So they're looking at asking about what happened to you in the past or what you would do in the future. That's just behavior. They want to know what you would do. And what I tend to find is that the future looking questions they're more responsive and they're better at judging someone's attitude than the looking back questions. Like that's all about experience and skill set. But they believe it's about future behavior. You and I are not the same person we were 10 years ago because we changed our behaviors. So not necessarily 100% of the time do past behaviors reflect future behaviors. Something in between could have happened that completely changed who we are as a person. And I've seen it and I am it
Hmm.
and I am that. But it doesn't always mean it's going to be a positive change of behavior.
Mm.
So looking at those behaviors in the past, for me and what I do, isn't always accurate. So if you're looking for someone whose attitude you want to see, talk about what they would do in a situation, not what they did in a situation.
Mm.
Their attitude will come out.
Yep.
It'll be hard to hide it, is what I'm saying. But
Or potentially asking the question of, if you were to go back and redo that situation again, how would you do it differently?
yeah,
What would the you now do back in that situation?
yeah. And if they say nothing, that's maybe not the person you want working for you. And that's my opinion. But my opinion comes through lots of education and lots of sitting on panels
Mm.
and hearing people. But that's only my opinion, professional opinion, Martin.
Hmm.
Martin, I don't even know how to conclude this because there are so many takeaways today. So many takeaways from this. It's been absolutely fantastic. One of the big takeaways for me is what you said was changing changing your perception can change your outcome.
Mm.
And if we relate that right back to the interviews, if you change the perception of who you are going into that interview, you're nervous, you're scared, you're afraid, oh, I might forget, I might go blank. If you change that perception to this is a conversation that I'm having with three people, they're just asking me questions and we're just having a conversation like I do every day in my job, like I
Hmm.
do every day at home. People ask me questions, I answer them. If we can change that perception of how we see an interview, the outcome will definitely be different. And another one is in business and interviews, you need to bring something that's needed, like attitude, to separate you from AI. Now,
Mm.
that's a huge statement to make, especially in this part of our life when AI is very prevalent. And it is pretty much in everything we do as a business now, both you and I. Your camera probably has some sort of AI on it to adjust or to set up a certain shoot. The same with my own computers and what I do. But we have to bring something different, something that AI can't bring. And what that is that attitude again. And this keeps coming back to attitude. And I hear
Yep.
this sort of golden thread that's running through our conversation. The one thing I do really love that you said is that life will always challenge us, but to win, we need to learn from it.
Hmm.
I love that. I mean, I couldn't summarize it better myself. Even when you look at an interview and the odds are stacked against you, and you don't get that. And what I tend to find is after the second or third interview failure, people will reach out to me, but they won't reach out on the first attempt,
Mm.
which would have saved them a lot of stress, time, and hassle had they just reached out initially. But what I
Yeah.
also tend to find is that people wait for about 3 weeks before the interview and then think they can change a lifetime's worth of behavior and put it to memory. It is a challenge. We do have techniques that help it stick, but it's for me in what I do and probably what you do, it's the preparation that's important. It's the build up and setting yourself that goal to look ahead and go, well, in 6 months' time, a year's time, I want to be in that position. So I'm going to prepare for it now. So practice in private what you'll be rewarded for in public. And you do that not back when you need it,
Mm.
back when you have the time to do it.
Yep.
And I mean this is amazing, Martin. What I've taken from everything you've said today and what our listeners will take from today will stretch way beyond interviews. You know, if people are looking to start their own business, it'll stretch to starting their own business. If people just want to feel better about themselves in life, what we've discussed today will help them do that as well.
Yep.
So Martin, I am absolutely privileged to have you on today and for you to share all those messages. Well,
I think sometimes, particularly one thing I've seen within the personal brand space is that people think a personal brand's only for an entrepreneurial.
mm,
But for me, your personal brand and how you construct it, whether it be in the spotlight or anything else like that, or just in the conversations and the networking that you do, is very much a living, breathing resume.
yeah,
You know, almost for a lot of people, you walk into an interview room and the interviewers may know nothing about you.
yeah,
But we are in a world now where we can do research. And I would say a lot of interviewers, I think there's actually a specific AI program out there now that you can do research, and I can't remember the name of it, Mumbai or something. And I used it once. I had a business coming on for a call to ask about doing video for them, and I was able to put the guy's name, who was the creative director, and the name of the business into it, and ask for a detailed report about it, and it came back and gave me all the information about the business. So I went into that sales call prepared, knowing who they are. And I imagine now a lot of interviewers would do the same. So it's
they
almost,
do.
what is it like, whether it's checking social media and,
Yeah.
and for almost an interviewer standing there and they've looked at your social media and there's nothing but party pictures and stuff and all that there. How's that going to paint you out? Although it's not a total fair reflection of who you are. But again, as a personal brand, imagine a personal brand if you had one that was almost your reputation or your breathing resume that would be in that interviewer room before you.
Absolutely.
It would
And
introduce you to walk in there. And almost how many barriers would that instantly break down, or how much connection would it create for you? So,
well,
whether it is you're just looking to climb a corporate ladder, whether you're an entrepreneur looking to establish yourself as a solo businessman or woman, or whether you're looking to climb a corporate ladder, there is a lot of benefit from having a solid personal brand and who you are that allows you to do your connections, particularly not just for networking and interacting with other businesses, but also in the terms of interviews. That your
yeah.
reputation goes into the room before you, that almost imagine the interviewing panel saying, oh, 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 I know who this is coming in next. I like this person.
Well, there's the unconscious bias, but using it in our advantage. And
Yeah.
you're right, Martin. You're absolutely right. There was research conducted in the last couple of years around recruiters and employers and how often they check social media of
Mm.
candidates that they're putting through for interview. It's 9 out of 10. It's 9 out of 10 companies will check social media. I'll go as far as saying that the one that didn't is probably telling some lies
Mm.
because they always check. And you're right. And I tell this to my clients all the time. Even if you want to create your own personal social media account, great, do that. But if you want to create your professional business social media account, I would suggest you do that. You
Yeah.
like and you share everything that makes you look good, but you're also interested in.
Mhm.
And it is about creating that personal brand, like you said. And Martin, there were so many people that in my line of work that will be more than happy to send your direction because they need that level of personal branding. They think,
Mhm.
oh, well, I have a LinkedIn account, but I don't have any picture on it. And I don't
Mhm.
have any information on it. Or I have a social media account, but I don't really post on it. Last post was 2 years ago. You and I both know in this world of digital social media, everybody is checking it.
Mm.
And it doesn't, and again, back to preparing in private, it's that 6 months ago you should be preparing for it. Not
Yeah.
when you want to go for the interview, but 6 months ago when you know you're going for the interview, when it comes
Mm.
up. And there we have people who are sitting in jobs now who know they're going for an interview, but are waiting until the day or the week or the month of that interview before starting preparation.
Yeah.
It's like it's like to use a different analogy, it's like we're going on holidays next week, so I'm going to go to the gym this week to get pumped up for holidays.
Yeah.
It won't work. It just
Yeah.
won't work.
I describe it as, don't wait until you're drowning before you decide to learn to swim.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to steal that one, by the way. Well, thanks,
Please
Martin.
do. But I mean, what I look at sort of my beliefs around personal branding very much as similar as an interview prep.
Okay.
It's about when you go into that interview, how is it you want the interviewers to see you?
Yeah.
What are those attributes? What are your core skill sets? What sets you apart? What is it about your attitude that makes you different and sets you above everyone else? And almost when you start building your personal brand, it's like in the terms of, okay, what do I want to be known for and what I want to be seen for? The same. Your personal brand and your interview are almost the exact same thing. The only difference is your personal brand can be in places you're not, introduce you to people that you don't have to be there and stuff and everything else. I jokingly described it as the best employee you'll ever hire. They say they'll never take time off, they'll never ask for a pay rise and stuff and everything else.
The best cheerleader.
Yep. And as well as that, but it's the same thing. It's almost that person that walks in that interview. And almost, I would say, putting the time and effort in to define what you want your personal brand to do will almost do like 50% of your interview prep.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, who it is, and I'm sure you are incredibly good at this, at helping people find within themselves their true skill sets. And exactly as you said, bring that to the light and celebrate that. Because when you can do that, you've less time or energy to focus on but what if they don't like this about me?
Correct. You're absolutely correct. We focus on the positive. We acknowledge the negative, but we focus on the positive because it supersedes. And we
Mm-hmm.
need more positives to counterbalance the one negative. Like you'd said earlier, with regards to you'd done that talk in space and you'd said loads of stuff and everybody was really celebrating you as a person and as a speaker, and you left that one thing out and you went home and you sort of give yourself a talking to because you left that one thing out. This is what happens. You need to almost multiply 10, 20 times the amount of positivity just to get rid of that one negative comment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so difficult whenever you're in that mindset of negativity, because it's
Yeah.
constantly there.
I think
Martin.
sometimes, one thing I'll say very quickly is I think some people are very much about, well, I was in the interview, the personal brand, just the success, the success, the success.
Yeah.
People strive for success, but they relate to challenge, they relate to struggle. And even that I go back to your talk at TEDx, which I found absolutely incredible. And the reason, like, I wanted to come up and speak to you straight afterwards, because I felt when the topics you talked about, your kids and stuff and everything else, it just resonated with me so much. There was a sense that you give when you were there was a sense of vulnerability,
Mhm.
but vulnerability that I could really connect with. And I think sometimes, people may be afraid to go into an interview and talk about a time that they failed.
Yeah.
If you were afraid to talk about a time you failed, then you don't get the opportunity to talk about the time you learnt and you reviewed and you got to be better. Whereas it's a case of just going in and saying, "Oh, I've never failed. I've always been this and that." And then again, back that idea of, so you've never been challenged. So what will happen? Who will we see if we hire you and then a challenge comes around? Will you crumble like biscuits?
Yeah.
Or at least if you can go back and say there's potentially challenge, you've responded, you've succeeded, you've learned, you've reviewed, that we know that you've got resilience.
Yeah.
And that in itself is probably a much greater attribute to bring to a job role.
Of course it is. Of course it is. It's we find out who we are and when we're tested.
Mm.
We really do. And I've been tested a lot, Martin, and I continue to test myself regularly because I believe it to be, because I'm very client focused and dealing with lots of different types of clients. I personally need to feel what they're going through so that
Hmm.
I can better offer my products and service to them and help them get to that other side. So I have purposely put myself into interview situations all the time just to remember what it feels like to be nervous, to
Mm.
be quizzed, to not know every answer to every question you might need to be asked. I have done that so that I can better service my clients. Martin, I could talk to you all day, my friend. I genuinely could talk to you all day. But if our listeners want to reach out to you, where can they find you, Martin?
You can reach me on either LinkedIn or just Martin Irvine, or Instagram. Instagram is Martin Irvine Productions.
Wonderful, Martin. Martin, listen, thank you very much for today. I'm sure this will not be the last time we talk, you and I, and I'm sure it'll be not be the last time that one of our listeners will reach out to you. But until next time, thank you very much for joining in, everybody. Hope you took something away that you'll be able to put into your own life and into your own preparation so that you can get the job that you truly deserve. Until next time, all the very best.
For more details about our guest, or if you would like to be a guest, go to www.interviewskillscoach.co.uk/my-worst-interview-ever, or find us on Facebook or LinkedIn. And remember, on the other side of a successful interview is the life you deserve.